Hope y'all are doing well and enjoying the videos thus far. So today is actually the third day in Israel, but the second full-length day. And we actually had a pretty full schedule. This morning we got up bright and early, had breakfast at 6:30, and then went out on the town at 7:30 to go around looking at some of the Old Testament features of Jerusalem that are presented in the Bible. And I actually had a really fun time today, Old Testament guy, of course. And so there were a couple of big things that I'm going to kind of mention, that some of the highlights of my day and time so far. So one of the very first things is, oh, by the way, I found out how to upload pictures and videos into this video, so we'll have that at the end. You're welcome. So one of the first things that we went to was this wall. And it at first doesn't seem like much of a wall. You're on this bridge, and then you're looking down at this stone wall that looks like a bunch of rocks piled on top of each other. But this is actually really important because it's Hezekiah's broad wall. And basically what that means is this man who became king of Judah after the divided kingdom, so his name's Hezekiah, he's a king, and he finds out that the Assyrians are coming to attack his city, and well, he doesn't really like that very much, so he builds a wall. And so thus we have Hezekiah's wall. This is more important later, but just want to let you know that it's there. I also took a picture of a sign that I should be uploading as well that shows how high the wall used to be, which was estimated to be 8 meters tall, which is pretty tall. They use meters over here. I'm not familiar with that, but it's tall. So there's that. We then went to see this archaeological excavation. We really saw a couple of them, but the coolest one we went to was called Area G, my favorite area, and it was actually this recent excavation where they have discovered a part of David's palace, which is awesome because it sits on this hill, Mount Zion, and it overlooks the city of David. And so the place that they were excavating were his living quarters, his bedroom, and he could actually go and look out his window and look down on all the townhouses and whatnot that he was over. And so that was really cool, getting to see that in action and watching them kind of excavate and dig that up and see different things. So that was really cool. Then, this was my absolute favorite part. We went to Hezekiah's tunnel. So this is the same guy, same king, Hezekiah. And this tunnel was actually not necessarily meant to be like a secret passageway, but what happened was after the north fell, after Israel fell to their attackers, Hezekiah knew that the Babylonians would be coming. And all the people who were from Jerusalem fled to Judah. And what they did was they actually settled on the Western Hill, which is in the west of Jerusalem. And they actually had a difficult time getting access to the water reservoirs because they had to go down this mountain, then up another, and then some other weird, strange way. And so what they did was they actually created a tunnel through a mountain that brought water from the Gihon spring all the way to the pool of Siloam so that they could have easier access to it. Now what happened was that they started at these two ends of a mountain, and they had men using axes carving through this mountain on both sides until they met in the middle, and they had this pathway dug. And so my professor says, oh, by the way, we're going to go through this tunnel. And he made sure that, we were aware that we're going to get wet because there is still water flowing through the tunnel. And it wasn't bad. It used to be up to people's necks or eyes or things like that. But more recently now, it's up to your knees. And actually at one point it was even up to my waist, but I'm fairly short. But it was up to my waist. So we went through that. And that was so incredible. So Dr. Stone warned me that, if you're claustrophobic, you might have a difficult time because the passages get really narrow, and he wasn't kidding. At points, it was difficult for my shoulders to get through the passageway, and the ceiling would sometimes be really high where you could look way up and see it, and at times it'd be really low where I had to crouch down and walk practically on my knees. And so it was really, really interesting and dynamic. There were turns, there were crevices, there were all sorts of things. I have a couple of videos that I will upload. They're fairly short at the end of this video of me walking in it with Dr. Stone, and so I'll show that to you. It was incredible, and it was so much fun. So the water's splashing, and it's dark, and a couple times, just to have some fun, I would turn off my cell phone light, because this is a cave, so there's no light that's going inside of it. So I turn off my cell phone light just to see if I could just to see if I could still find my way and not bash my head on something. Luckily, I survived, barely, but I did survive. I didn't fall down, didn't drop my phone in the water or anything like that. So that was really incredible. Now, whenever you come out of the tunnel, then you go up these stairs and then you make your way to the actual Pool of Siloam. Now, what's interesting about the Pool of Siloam is that you may have read about this in the New Testament in the Gospel of John, chapter 9, whenever Jesus heals the blind man. And we actually stood on the very steps of the very pool where this blind man was healed. We then proceeded up the very steps that this blind man saw for the first time after he was healed, and we went up those same steps that were there from first century Jerusalem, which was incredible. I loved it. It was fantastic. And so that was exciting. By the way, Hezekiah's wall and his tunnel, I believe, are dated to the 700s BC. So those are even older than some of the, well, they're probably around the same time because the Pool of Siloam was still there. But nonetheless, these are old things that are there, and I got to stand on it. I'm so excited. So that was really cool. So yeah, we saw the Pool of Siloam, and then I have pictures, I have a picture of it, and I'll even upload a picture. When you go inside this other tunnel to kind of leave, there are some archaeologists who had this painting rendered of what they believe the actual pool looked like, back 2,000 years ago in the first century whenever Jesus was there and the blind man was there. So I'll upload that as well. So it's really, really exciting. And then as we continue up these stairs, we eventually have to cross over into a drainage system, which is fancy talk for a sewer. We walked in a sewer, okay? I got into a sewer. We walked in a sewer, and at first it was just like, oh, we're in a sewer. Well, that's kind of all right. But what's interesting is that the sides were these really rough kind of limestone rocks, and it turns out that these rocks are actually from first century Jerusalem, and so they also are super old. And there are points whenever some, I don't know if they're archaeologists or construction workers or someone installed, maybe plumbers, installed lights along the way so that you're not walking in darkness, because they had plumbing and things going like that through there. So, well, not like actual plumbing, but they had pipes and stuff. So there was light, and what's interesting is that where the light was shining, there was actually moss and mold and all these things growing on these rocks, which was all sorts of fun. I loved having it brush up against me and getting all sorts of stuff on me. Haven't showered yet today, so it's still there. Yes. So that was interesting. And then what's even more interesting is that as we were walking through, and it's really a climb, everything's a climb. You notice that in Jerusalem, you're always going uphill, but you never seem to come back downhill. I must have elevated 8,000 feet by now. So, interestingly, as we're walking through the sewage system, Dr. Stone and Dr. Laney mentioned that this was actually a passage used by the Jews as they were fleeing from Rome whenever the Romans were attacking around 70 CE, whenever the temple was destroyed, and during the Maccabean revolt and all those wonderful things. And so they actually used this as a secret passageway to get out. But here's the catch. The Romans actually knew about this secret passageway, and so they waited for them at the other side, and then just slaughtered them all off whenever they walked through. It's such interesting history. And not just because people died, but it's just interesting. So that was really cool to walk through. And then, after that, we also went to another excavation site around Mount Moriah at the bottom. I'll upload pictures. And we saw what is a wall that is still standing from the time of King Solomon's reign, whenever he was still living, and around the time that he built his temple. It's lower than the actual foundation that's still there, lower than the platform that was built for the temple. And so it's down lower. And I think it was actually a wall that was used to surround Mount Moriah. But for now, there's just this one wall that's left. And so it was interesting to see something that's been standing for that long. That may have actually been quite possibly the oldest thing that we saw today, which was really interesting. And so I really enjoyed that. As we were also walking past another excavation site, we saw that it's a relatively new one, and they haven't even gotten down to the bottom part where they're excavating like Bronze Age stuff and whatnot. They're still in the Roman Empire era. But we did look down and see a picture, or a floor that had a ceramic tile type design on it, which was interesting. So it was some kind of rich person that lived there. But that was fun, so I'll upload a picture of that. And then finally we saw the Church of Galligatu, also known as the Church of the Cockcrow. There's nothing really significant that happened here, but this is a church that was built to show Peter's denying of Jesus 3 times. And so, Jesus says, before the cock crows, you will deny me 3 times. And so at the very top of this church, there is actually a rooster instead of a cross, or maybe they have a cross too. Maybe at the top of the cross there's a rooster. Nonetheless, at the very top there is a rooster. And so that's known as the Church of the Cockcrow. We didn't go inside, but we saw it from a distance. I think I have a picture I can upload. And then the final church that we saw the outside of is the Church of Dormition, which is remembering Mary going dormant, also, her dying. And so that's something that we saw. I did not get a picture of that one. I couldn't get a good angle. I will do my best to get that soon, but we didn't even get to go inside. But I did see that, and that was there. Another really interesting thing is that we went there at my college here that I'm staying at. There was a graveyard right next to us. And it turns out, we went and walked through it. It turns out that Horatio G. Spafford, who wrote the hymn, It Is Well With My Soul, was actually buried there with what folks he had. And there is, of course, a headstone with his name on it, where his bones now are. And so I couldn't resist but taking a picture of the headstone. I'll upload that. So I stood by the grave of Horatio Spafford. If you don't know the story of him and his wife and his daughters and his business and all these things, you should really look it up. It's a very sad story, but when you read the lyrics of it as well, it's just an incredible display of faith. And we did sing the first stanza, the first verse of It Is Well With My Soul while we were there around his gravesite. And what's interesting is that originally he was not buried there. Originally he was buried where the Church of Dormition currently is. But suddenly that property was sold without anyone even knowing about what was happening, and so it just very quickly. And so what they did, because the church didn't want to build over graves, they dug up Horatio Spafford and all those who were with him, threw his body into the wheelbarrow, and then just rolled him up this mountain and dumped him and everyone else with their bones mixed all together and whatnot into this hole that they randomly dug, and then put a gravestone right above it. So lots of love to Horatio G. Spafford there, but I thought that was just super interesting. So that was my day. It was really exciting. I did that. Then we sat for about 3 or 4 hours of lecture about geography and history of Israel, and that was good. I did end up taking a shower last night. Finally, Saturday I showered that night. Sunday did not get to shower because I was on a plane. Monday did not shower because I forgot to pack soap and a washcloth. But then yesterday, after all day, if you watched yesterday's videos, you'll know the struggles I went to find soap and a washcloth. I did not. So what I did was I found some squirting hand soap. You squirt in your hand, there's hand soap squirt. So I did that, I found some of that, I did a bottle of that, and then I got a sock. I got a clean sock, and I turned it inside out so that the rough side is, and I put the sock on my hand like a glove, and then I'd squirt the hand soap into the sock, and I used that as a washcloth. I know, brilliant. I know, survivalist, but I do it because, this is furthering society, furthering the world. So, just so you know, I found things out. And I told Dr. Stone, because I was all excited about it, but then he came and he brought me a bar of soap. He's like, look, G, you're gonna need this. So I have real soap now. I have real soap. So that's going wonderfully. Things are going well. I've not yet gone shopping out and ventured out on my own just yet. I have a free day coming up, so I plan to do that soon. But nonetheless, today has been an awesome day of education and fun and excitement, so I hope you enjoy the pictures and the videos that are to come. Thanks, and stay tuned for tomorrow.